The words you speak are not mere sounds, dissolving into silence the moment they leave your lips. They are living vibrations, carrying a frequency that moves through the fabric of reality, long after the sound itself has faded. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is one of the oldest and most closely guarded truths in every spiritual tradition on Earth. The ancient Vedic masters called it Voc Shakti, the creative power of the spoken word. The Hebrew mystics called it the power of the tongue, a force so potent that entire chapters of sacred scripture were devoted to warning humanity about its misuse. And in the Gospel of John, the very origin of all existence is attributed to a single act of speech. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Not a thought, not a feeling, a word, something spoken into being. This is the teaching that Paramahansa Yogananda carried with him from his earliest years in India. A teaching he didn't learn from books, but experienced firsthand in a way that would mark him for life. As a young boy, Yogananda discovered something about the nature of spoken words that most people never consider, even after a lifetime of speaking. He discovered that words spoken with deep concentration and clear inner realization don't merely describe reality, they create it. In the opening chapter of his autobiography, Yogananda recounts an extraordinary incident. Filled with curiosity about the power of concentrated thought, he turned to his sister and spoke with unusual intensity. In his own words, "I will have a boil here tomorrow." He pointed to a specific spot on his body and said it not as a wish or a guess, but as a declaration spoken with the full force of his concentrated awareness. The next morning, a boil appeared in the exact location he had indicated. His mother, who was deeply versed in the spiritual sciences, did not treat this as a coincidence. She recognized immediately what had happened, and her response carries a teaching that echoes across the centuries. She told her young son with the gravity of someone passing down sacred knowledge that he must never use the power of words to bring harm or suffering, not even to himself. She understood something most modern people have entirely forgotten. Your voice is not neutral, and it is not passive. It is a creative instrument connected to the deepest forces in the universe. Yogananda later explained the mechanism behind this seemingly miraculous event, and his explanation reaches far deeper than simple positive thinking or the modern idea of affirmations. He taught that behind every atom in the universe, behind every particle of matter, behind the movement of stars and the beating of the human heart, there exists a single cosmic vibration. The ancient sages called it Aum, the creative word, the primordial sound from which all of creation continuously emerges. This is not a religious symbol or a chanting exercise. It is the actual vibratory foundation of existence. Every form you see, every texture you touch, every sound you hear, is a modification of this one original vibration. The chair beneath you is vibrating. The air around you is vibrating. Your own body, down to its most microscopic particle, is a symphony of vibration held in a specific pattern by the underlying hum of creation itself. And here is where Yogananda's teaching becomes genuinely transformative. When you speak, you are not simply moving air through vocal cords. You are generating a vibration that interacts with this cosmic field, creating ripples just as a stone creates ripples when it enters still water. But not all stones create the same ripples. A pebble tossed casually barely disturbs the surface, while a boulder dropped with force sends waves to every shore. This is the difference between words spoken from distraction and words spoken from deep concentration. Most people speak from the surface of their minds. They talk all day, hundreds and thousands of words, but their attention is scattered, and their words carry no real force. Those words dissolve quickly, creating small temporary ripples that fade before they reach anything solid. This is why most people feel that their words have no power. They've been speaking their entire lives, without ever concentrating the full force of their awareness behind what they say. But when a word is spoken with what Yogananda called clear realization, something entirely different happens. Clear realization means the speaker fully believes, fully sees, and fully embodies the truth of the word at the moment of speaking. There is no gap between the word and the speaker's inner state. The word is not a hope and it is not a request. It is a declaration of what already is, spoken from absolute inner certainty. When this happens, the vibration of the word carries enormous force. It enters the cosmic vibratory field, not as a ripple, but as a command. And reality reorganizes itself around that vibration. This is exactly what the young Yogananda did when he declared that a boil would appear. He didn't wish for it, and he didn't try to convince the universe. He spoke from a place of total concentrated knowing, and the vibratory fabric of reality responded. Now consider what this means for the words you speak every single day. Consider the words you use to describe yourself, your circumstances, your future. Most of these words are spoken unconsciously, rolling off the tongue as habits inherited from parents, from culture, from years of unexamined repetition. Phrases like, "I always mess this up," or "nothing ever works out for me," are spoken so casually that they seem harmless. But they are not harmless. Every one of those phrases is a vibration entering the creative field. And while a single casual utterance may not carry enough force to manifest immediately, thousands of repetitions over years and decades create a cumulative vibratory pattern, shaping your experience of reality as surely as water shapes stone. This is the mechanism Yogananda wanted humanity to understand. You are always speaking your world into existence. And the only question is whether you are doing it consciously or unconsciously. This is precisely why his mother's warning was so profound. She didn't say, "Be careful what you think." She didn't say, "Visualize positive outcomes." She said, "Never misuse the power of your words." Because she understood that the spoken word occupies a unique position in the hierarchy of creative forces. A thought is powerful, yes, but a thought that remains unspoken is like a seed that stays in the palm of your hand. It holds potential, but it hasn't been planted. When you speak a thought aloud, you plant it. You send that vibration into the living field of creation and set a process into motion that moves toward manifestation. This is why every major spiritual tradition places extraordinary emphasis on the discipline of speech. The book of James in the Bible compares the tongue to the rudder of a great ship. Though small in size, it determines the direction of the entire vessel. James wrote, "The tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts." Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The Dhammapada, one of the most sacred Buddhist texts, opens with a teaching that points to this same principle. All that we are arises with our thoughts, and with our thoughts we make the world. The Buddhist tradition recognizes that speech is thought given its most potent form, thought released into the world where it can no longer be retrieved. The Sufi masters of the Islamic tradition taught their students that every word spoken by a human being is recorded in the ether, creating an invisible architecture of vibration that surrounds the speaker and influences everything that enters their life. Yogananda understood all of these traditions because they all point to the same truth. The creative word is not something that existed only at the beginning of time. It is active now. It is active in your throat. It is active every time you open your mouth and shape sound into meaning. You are participating in the ongoing act of creation every time you speak. And here is the deeper teaching Yogananda offered for those ready to hear it. The power of your words is directly proportional to two things: the depth of your concentration and the clarity of your inner realization. This is why mere repetition of affirmations often produces disappointing results. A person can repeat, "I am prosperous," 10,000 times, but if those words come from a scattered mind filled with doubt and contradiction, the vibratory force behind them is almost negligible. The words bounce off reality like rain off stone. But when someone speaks from a place of genuine inner stillness, where the mind is concentrated to a single point of attention, and the words carry the full weight of the speaker's knowing, those words carry a force that Yogananda described as materializing value. The word doesn't just express a desire, it materializes as reality. This is why meditation is so central to Yogananda's teaching. Not because meditation is an end in itself, but because meditation trains the mind in the art of concentration. A mind that can hold a single thought without wavering is a mind whose words carry creative power. A mind that jumps from thought to thought, distracted and fragmented, is a mind whose words scatter like seeds thrown into the wind. The practice then is not merely to change what you say, but to change the depth from which you say it. And something in you already knows this is true. Not because someone told you, but because you felt it. There have been moments in your life when you spoke about yourself with conviction, whether positive or negative, and watched reality mirror your words with uncanny precision. Times when you declared something with certainty and it unfolded almost exactly as you described. Times when you spoke harsh words about yourself in moments of frustration, and felt the weight of those words settle into your body like something physical. These were not coincidences, they were this principle in motion. You were wielding the creative power of the word without knowing you were doing it. When you begin to understand how the vibratory nature of speech works, something shifts in the way you move through daily life. You start to notice the words you choose. Not from anxiety or self-monitoring, but from a quiet awareness that was always available to you but never activated. You notice the moments when you describe yourself in limiting terms. And instead of forcing a correction, you simply pause. In that pause, something remarkable happens. The unconscious momentum of habitual speech loses its grip for just a moment, and a different word can enter. Not a word chosen strategically, but a word that arises from a deeper place, from the part of you that has always known you are more than your limitations. Instead of "I can never figure this out," something quieter emerges. "I am learning." Instead of "nothing ever changes for me," a truer frequency surfaces. Something is already shifting. These are not techniques. They are what naturally happens when you understand what your words actually do. You don't need to police your speech. You need to awaken to its power. And in that awakening, the correction happens on its own. Yogananda's teaching is not asking you to develop a power you don't have. It is asking you to recognize a power you have always had, one you have been using every single day, mostly without awareness, mostly without intention. The creative vibratory force doesn't turn on when you become spiritual enough. It doesn't activate after a certain number of meditation sessions. It is always on, operating right now. In the words you spoke this morning, in the words you will speak tonight, in the silent words you whisper to yourself when no one else can hear. And this is perhaps the most important dimension of Yogananda's teaching on the power of speech. It is not only the words spoken aloud that carry vibratory force. The words you speak to yourself internally, the constant narration of your inner voice. These too are vibrations. They may not move air, but they move consciousness. And consciousness is the substance from which all reality is formed. Yogananda taught that the creative word, Aum, is not a sound you need to go searching for in temples or monasteries. It is vibrating within you right now. It is the hum beneath your heartbeat, the frequency beneath your thoughts, the silent roar beneath all silence. You were born from this vibration. You are sustained by this vibration. And every word you speak is either in harmony with it or in conflict with it. When your words align with the creative frequency at the core of your being, you experience what people call flow, synchronicity, grace. When your words contradict that fundamental vibration, you experience friction and stagnation, the feeling that something is working against you even though nothing visible has changed. The difference is not in your circumstances, it is in your frequency. And your frequency is shaped moment by the words you choose to speak. Yogananda lived his entire life as a demonstration of this principle. He spoke his mission into existence long before circumstances supported it. He declared realities that had no evidence to back them up, and watched as the vibratory force of his concentrated words reorganized the material world around him. Not because he was special, but because he understood the law, and applied it with the full weight of a concentrated mind and a devoted heart. Toward the end of his teachings, Yogananda expressed something that captures the essence of everything this understanding offers. He said, "The power of unfulfilled desires is the root of all man's slavery." And in that single observation lies the key to liberation through speech. When you speak your deepest truth not as a distant hope but as a present reality, when you speak from fulfillment rather than from lack, you align your vibratory frequency with the creative force of the universe itself. You are not begging reality to change. You are informing reality of what already is. Spoken from the deepest place within you, where your voice and the voice of creation are not two separate things. They are one. They have always been one. The creative power that spoke galaxies into form is the same power that moves through your vocal cords every time you speak. The only thing that ever separated you from this power was the belief that your words don't matter. Now you know they do. And that knowing, that single shift in understanding, changes everything that follows. Not because you have learned a technique, but because you have remembered what you are. You are the Word made flesh. And every word you speak from this day forward carries the full creative power of the universe that made you,